Hey everyone, this is Johnnyonoes and I've been playing My Summer Car, and in this Let's Learn video I'm going to show you how to build the engine. First thing you want to do is go ahead and grab your engine block, spit it on over, drop it on the ground. Then go ahead and grab the crankshaft, which is right here. And this doesn't require any spanners to connect. You just go ahead and hover it right up top, drop it right there. Then grab all three of the bearings. Bearing 3 will appear on the, I think, the timing side. 2 in the middle. And then the first one will be on the gear shift side. You'll find that I know nothing about cars, but I've built this car at least, I would say, 15 times. All right, for the bearings, you're going to need a number 9 spanner. And there are 6 bolts total. Next up are the pistons. You're going to want to flip that block over again. Grab each of the pistons. And this can be a little tricky, but just go ahead and put them right above the hole that they're associated with. If you got the timing side, which looks like this to your left, it's going to line up perfectly with the pistons as they are on the shelf. Once installed, go ahead and flip the block over yet again and get yourself a 7mm spanner, and go ahead and screw in all 8 of the bolts that are here, nuts that are here. Okay, next order of business is to go ahead and grab yourself the head gasket, which is right over here. Flip the block over and throw the head gasket right on top of where you put the pistons. Then go ahead and get yourself the cylinder head, which requires a 7mm spanner and has 10 bolts to have to put in. Next up are the spark plugs, which requires the spark plug wrench. And they can be found right on this side. And all you gotta do is just find little holes in the side to be able to go ahead and put them in there, right on the side of the cylinder head. It can be a little tricky to put in if you don't have the right order. Once they're all in, go ahead and screw them in with the spark plug wrench. Next up is the rocker shaft, which is an 8mm spanner, along with the then there's 5 bolts total. They go on top of the cylinder head. Alright, so the camshaft is next. Let's go ahead and throw that in there. And it's a little bit tough to get in sometimes, but if you just kind of put it into the center of the engine, you'll eventually get it. It should go, it's right there. Go ahead and screw in those 2 bolts. And it requires a 5mm spanner. Next up, go ahead and grab the camshaft gear, which is right over here. And throw it right on top of where you put the crankshaft, or the camshaft. Alright, this one requires a 10mm spanner. There's only 1 bolt. This is your time to put on the timing chain, so go ahead and throw that on there, right where you put the gear. And then the timing cover gets put right up on top. It requires a 6mm spanner, and there is 6 bolts. 4 on this side, and then 2 on the other. Water pump is next. Go ahead and throw that right here, and the water pump requires a 7mm spanner, and there are 5 bolts and nuts to put in. Then go ahead and put the water pump pulley on there as well. requires the same spanner as the pump, which is a 7, and there are 4 bolts to put in. Next up is the crankshaft pulley, which is right over here. Throw that on the open hole that's there, and go ahead and screw in the 1 bolt with a 11-meter spanner. Next up is the distributor. Go ahead and grab that from the left side of the cabinet. And then go ahead and place the distributor right on the side here. You don't have to have it exact, just throw it in that general area. Distributor only has 1 bolt, and it's the 6-millimeter spanner. Next piece is the alternator. Go ahead and grab that. Put it right next to where the water shaft or the water pump pulley's at. Just put that in there, and then use a 10-millimeter to put in the the washer here, the nut, if you will. All right. Now with the alternator, this is where you then put on the fan belt. Unfortunately, what you have to do is you have to tighten the alternator as much as you can. And you can do this by hand now. Let's see. Nope. I think it requires a 7 to do that. There it is. And then tighten it as much as you can. And then throw the fan belt on top. Because if it's not tightened, you're not going to get the option to put in the fan belt on there. Alright, the next one is the engine plate. Engine plate's right here. It doesn't require any spanners. Just going to throw it on the gearbox side of the engine. Just like that. Then go ahead and grab yourself the starter, which is right over on the right hand side here. And then go ahead and look at the engine plate and find the hole. Put the starter right in there and then tighten it. Tighten the 2 bolts with a 7. Next up, grab the carburetor and throw it on the side that has the alternator on there. And then go ahead and tighten the 4 nuts that are here with a 8-millimeter spanner. The headers also go lovingly around the carburetor. Just go ahead and drop it right next to it. And the carburetor also uses an 8-millimeter spanner, but there are 5 nuts to screw in. 2 on each side, and then 1 in the center that may be hard to find. Alright, next up is the flywheel, which is pretty easy. Just grab yourself the flywheel, put it on the gearbox side. Come on. And then go ahead and tighten the 6 bolts that are there with a 7-millimeter spanner. Then go ahead and assemble the clutch. This was actually the first thing I found out when I was trying to figure all this out. I was like, oh my god, all you do is just put all 3 of these together. You got yourself a clutch assembly. Then go ahead and take the clutch. Take the clutch and put it right on top of the flywheel. There we go. That works. And then with the clutch, you have to use a 6-millimeter spanner, and there are 6 bolts. Next up is the oil pan, and it goes right on top of the crankshaft assembly here. Because of the carburetor, it's a little hard to. Oh, that was perfect. A little hard to angle the engine, but you can get it to work eventually. So the oil pan has 2 different spanners required to put it together. First one is a 7-millimeter, and there are 8 bolts, so 4 on each side. Be very careful about the one that's hidden by the starter. Alright, and then there's a big lug nut right there, and that one is going to require a 13. Alright, next up is the gearbox, which is right over here. You put it right on the side where you put the flywheel. Just kind of wiggle it around until you see that check mark, and it's connected. This also requires 2 different spanners, a 7 and a 10. There are 6 things to screw in with the 7. So let's go and find them. So that's 3 on each side of the top. And then you're going to go ahead and take the 10 and find the large nut that's over here as well. Right on this side, right below the headers. Next up is the drive gear, which you put right through the slot on the gear shaft side, and there is 7 6mm nuts on there. Don't forget about the 6th one, which is right on the edge here. Alright, almost done with the engine. All we have left is the rocker cover. Now the rocker cover, I like to only bolt in one of the nuts. It's not a nut, it's a bolt. One of the bolts, because you're going to end up taking this off when you're doing the calibration of the car. So let's go ahead and grab the 7. I think and we're going to just do one of these. So we're going to take this thing off anyways when we start calibrating the pistons. Alright, and the final piece for now is going to be the fuel pump, which you then put on the side here, and you also use the 7 to connect, or to wrench in the 2 nuts that are here. Alright, so the initial assembly for the engine is done, but if you're ready to go ahead and throw it in the car, you're just going to go and get it on the hoist. So all you got to do is go ahead and move all this all the way down. Come on. And then what you're going to want to do is take a 10mm spanner and tighten in the 2 bolts that are on the hoist to get it firmly secure and ready for you to drop into the car. Alright folks, that is the engine assembly. Yes, there's the air filter and stuff, but I like to put that on later. But yeah, if you have any questions about my summer car and how to build the car and all that good stuff, let me know in the comments section below. But thanks so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next episode.